Diagnosis is right. I had been diagnosed throughout my life with depression, with anxiety. I've been on anxiety medication, depression medication, different kinds throughout many years, and done different practices to try and help myself. So as you're resting here on your mat, sensing your body here, notice if you're comfortable. Notice how your body is resting down onto the mat and onto the floor. Do I see myself in some of my clients? Oh, for sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm my client still. You know what I mean? Like, it's not done. You know, I mean, there are days when I feel that sinking feeling or whatever. I just have better tools of being able to pull myself back out of it. And so this is that first practice of that word pratyahara I mentioned, sense withdrawal. We're closing our eyes to let that be a signal to our brain that we're going to go inward. We're going to pay attention to what's happening within and let everything out in the world go for the next hour. I think I always felt a little unsafe or a little unsettled in my life and just started having this low-grade anxiety that always ran in my life from a really small child. And then wanting to figure out how to fix that. So I increased my anxiety by trying to figure out how to make my life more comfortable or make everybody safe, including my mom, including myself. And so I started being kind of a person that would try to control things, even as a small child, really, be the good girl, get things done. And eventually that didn't work. And so then I kind of started to go the other way and started being the bad kid and acting out. So feeling a touch of cool as the air comes in through your nose, and a touch of warm as the breath leaves. And give your mind the job of watching that for a few breaths. I had my depression, anxiety, spiritual crisis, whatever, manifested all the way into my joints. Like I was sick from stress, I think of it. And the medications were so heavy duty and so awful feeling to me. And I remember then, like probably 15 years ago, thinking there's something wrong here. The medications are not what I want in my life. I want to be able to see clearly. One of the big things of yogic philosophy that really helped me, because what I learned was the more that I kept doing the same thing over and over again, I actually started to isolate. I actually dealt with the world less and less and less, right? So because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle what was going on. So I started to make myself smaller, deal with less, only be able to tolerate less, which isn't really what I wanted. I wanted to be in relationship with people. I didn't want to be isolated because that's how I felt in the first place. If I start down that path of isolation, how do I go back to connection? How do I change my perspective? And for me, it's been with yoga, teaching, and being of service. And that's a big part of yoga is how are you of service in your life? And for me, that's the big thing that keeps me out of depression, out of anxiety, out of that path of isolation.
I actually came here expecting to help myself physically and actually found a mental awareness that I was never expecting at all, and that has been far more and far-reaching, far better for me as a person and much more far-reaching for me and my contribution to life.
And it really connected me with something that I was searching for, and it was the first healthy thing that I ever fell in love with.
I feel like we get a lot of feedback of people being able to really open their lens, like they've been looking at their depression or their anxiety without as much information as is available to them, and relying on others, relying on a doctor or a series of doctors or therapists or whatever. And when we start broadening the picture, their ability to actually see themselves more clearly and see this idea of this disease that they've been told that they have, and what there might be other ways of dealing with it. I think it's empowering to people. So that's what I find is people feel more empowered and more connected. They're actually able to realize when they're going down one path that really they could just choose another path. And most of the time in depression, we don't feel that way, or anxiety. We feel like this is it. It's almost like a snowball. You keep rolling into it. And when you're able to interrupt yourself and go, oh, wait a minute, okay, I see myself going here, and now I want to go here. That's a big tool. I mean, for me, that was a big tool. And I think that's one of the things I hear people talking about, being able to witness themselves and interrupt when they're moving somewhere they don't want to go. I want you to get a sense of the back of your head on the floor, your shoulders, your spine all the way down into your pelvis. And for a little while, just let yourself settle. Listen to the sound of my voice. And take that time to slow down and to do it. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do if somebody's going, oh, I've never thought about it like that. So you're out in the world and you know something bothers you, and seeing if you can be in that place of something that would normally overwhelm you and use something like a mantra or a breath technique to keep you there without letting it take you off course, without letting it rock your boat completely.
In psychology, they call that surfing the urge.
Surfing the urge, that's a great term for it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. For me, I also think about it, when we were talking about the difference between the mind and the brain. So when we're overwhelmed, what happens is we actually kind of flip our lid. We don't use our thinking mind anymore. We go more into our reptile brain. We go into more fight or flight. So we want to learn how to surf the urge and keep ourselves in our thinking mind, being able to really use that well. And letting this bit of ease or relaxation at the beginning of class start to wash over you. It puts us in the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, heal, trust, love, and takes us out of the stress response, the stress nervous system. There is definitely mental health treatment that works really well, and then there is mental health treatment that it doesn't quite touch the things that need to be dealt with. I'm not saying people should go off medications. I'm not saying people shouldn't go to counselors. I'm saying this is another path, and a lot of times people that come to the classes here, and including myself, I had, lots of therapy. I had lots of different drugs. I had lots of different things, and what I needed were some different tools. So I don't think it's avoiding those other practices, but I think it's saying, hey, there's something else here. And it is interesting, the stigma. I was talking with my husband about this last night when I said we were doing this interview, and because you guys kept saying, we want you to talk about your mental illness. And I was like, man, I just don't think of it like that, because to me, that's somebody else's idea of who I am. And for me, literally, it felt like I was doing the best I could my whole life to try and, survive. And with yoga, I've figured out a way to thrive. And so for me, it was a spiritual crisis. It was really being in crisis in my life and not knowing how to get out of it. And so I don't think about it even that way. I don't want to keep adding to the stigma by saying the words mental illness are bad. Just like dis-ease is disease is dis-ease. There's a dis-ease in the body and a dis-ease in the mind. So I don't know. I guess I struggle with it too, because of, I think, the stigma out there, and because of the fact that there's so much more to it than just the mind. When we say mental illness, we're just saying it's just the mind. And for me, it was so much more than that. It was nutrition. It was dealing with my spirit. It was dealing with what I was supposed to be doing in the world. And I wasn't living in accordance with who I was, really. And because I was just trying to survive. It's changed when I've found the place I was supposed to be. Namaste.